All right, what's going on, guys? So I wanted to make a quick video here just covering a few tips that I have for modifying your training during the coronavirus outbreak, with many people now being forced to train at home. Now, since this is a fairly heated topic at the moment, I'm going to start here with a few disclaimers. First, I'm not an infectious disease expert, so you'll want to visit these websites that I'll put up here on the screen for specific recommendations related to COVID-19. And if there's any conflict between what I say in this video and the things reported from these sources, you'll want to default to these authorities. Second, I decided that I am going to monetize this video after all, but I'm just going to donate all the ad revenue that it generates, if it generates any, to a charity for COVID research or something like that. And I'll leave the details in a comment down below once I figure out what makes the most sense there. Now, when it comes to the general coronavirus stuff, I've listened to several different interviews with experts on this, and there are two podcasts in particular that I definitely recommend checking out, especially if you're still having a difficult time sort of filtering through all the noise on this. Also, before I get to the training stuff, I do want to quickly cover diet. And as you'd probably expect, there's been no shortage of idiocy about this stuff on the internet. So I've seen people saying that the vegan diet can prevent COVID. I've seen other people saying that the carnivore diet can help, and keto people saying that the keto diet is the key. All of this is nonsense. There's no evidence that any named diet can prevent, much less cure, COVID-19. Now, I am aware of one study linking the keto diet to protection from influenza. However, this was only one study. It was conducted on mice, and influenza viruses are not the same as coronaviruses. So to use this paper as support for the keto diet is an enormous stretch, to say the least. And my best advice is to simply follow the same general nutrition advice that you should be following anyway. So try to stick to a whole foods, minimally processed diet for the most part, and eat a wide variety of different fruits and vegetables to avoid nutrient deficiency. Also, there was this super popular post on Twitter claiming that drinking warm water would help flush the virus down into your stomach, where stomach acid would then kill the virus. This is also nonsense. Staying hydrated is a good idea, but unfortunately isn't going to prevent you from catching this thing or cure you of it if you got it. Superdosing vitamin C has also been suggested as a prevention method, but according to Examine, this only seems to work against the common cold, and only if you started taking it regularly before falling sick. And again, there's zero evidence that it does anything against coronavirus. So I think the best things that we can do are behavioral things like washing your hands, not touching your face, and avoiding contact with infected people. So this brings me to the gym. Now, I would say that many of us are most likely at some point gonna need to switch to at-home workouts very soon, if we haven't already. So I'd like to go through some general modifications and strategies for training at home. Now, first of all, there's no need to panic about losing your gains. You're probably not gonna lose a significant amount of muscle, even if you take a small break from lifting or if your training is suboptimal for a while. For example, there was this 2013 study from Ogasawa and colleagues, which had one group train continuously for 24 weeks, so for 6 months straight, and then another group trained periodically for 6 months. So they train for 6 weeks, take 3 weeks off, train for 6 weeks, take another 3 weeks off, and so on. And what they found was that during the 3-week detraining periods, subjects did lose some muscle, but regained it back very quickly when they resumed normal training again. So over that 6-month period, for both the triceps and the pecs, muscle growth ended up being about the same. So a few weeks isn't gonna rob you of all your gains as long as you get back to regular training afterward, especially if you do some kind of weighted loading. It doesn't need to be the most perfect workout ever in order to maintain your muscle mass, and any tensile stimulus on the muscle is gonna be better than no stimulus at all. And I'd also recommend eating at caloric maintenance or in a slight caloric surplus if retaining muscle is your main priority. If you're cutting, you're already at a greater risk of muscle loss, and then if you're forced to train suboptimally, that's only going to make matters worse. So if you're training from home using only light weights and minimal equipment, I'd recommend at least bumping your calories up to maintenance. Now, obviously, if your main goal is to continue losing fat, you'll want to be in a caloric deficit, so in that case, I recommend at least bumping your protein up to 1 gram per pound of body weight. All right, so with all that said, I'm gonna take the camera off here and show you guys a few of my favorite at-home exercises and show you a few strategies that might be helpful if you're stuck at home. So general principles, there are 4 general principles that you wanna keep in mind. The first is I recommend doing 3 to 5 full body workouts per week. You wanna pick 1 or 2 exercises per body part, depending on what you wanna focus on the most. For those exercises, you'll wanna do 3, maybe 4 sets per exercise, depending on how much volume you need to do. And then the 4th one is the one that most people miss, which is you need to train close to failure. I find a lot of people who do at-home workouts just write, 3 sets of 20 reps, and then they stop at 20 because that seems like a lot, but maybe you could have gotten 40 or 50. And what we know from the research is it doesn't really matter what the specific rep count is. What matters is that you're getting sufficiently close to failure. So for all these exercises, I'm not gonna list any rep counts because it doesn't really matter. They're probably gonna be pretty high because we're not training with any or much external resistance. So you're probably gonna have to do fairly high rep workouts, but again, The key is not the actual rep count, it's are you sufficiently close to failure? So for all these exercises, just leave 1, maybe 2 or 3 reps in the tank. And then I'd say for the last set of each exercise, just take that to failure and actually push yourself. This is gonna be far better at maintaining muscle mass than just doing circuit style workouts where you're just getting a pump or just going through the motions. All right, so I'm actually gonna break this down into 4 different categories. So we're gonna do leg exercises, push exercises, pull exercises, and isolation exercises. So stuff for like the biceps, triceps, calves, and abs. So for each of these categories, I'm gonna provide 2 or 3 different exercises that you can choose from. So you're gonna pick 1 exercise per full body workout, if that makes sense. I figured that would be more comprehensive than just doing like 1 sample workout. So I'm gonna show you guys a bunch of different exercises and you can pick out which ones you wanna do on which days. First thing you should do before anything is just get the blood flowing. So do a little bit of light cardio. So you could do like jump rope if you want to. What I would do is over here, play a bit of basketball, and that'll get you warmed up. So I'm kind of joking with this, by the way. But whatever the activity is, if you're gonna do it, you could just like jog back and forth, whatever, come back, tomahawk. Whatever's gonna get you going with a bit of energy. So then from that, then you'll hop into your first exercise. We're gonna start with legs. First exercise for legs is gonna be the Bulgarian split squat. This is gonna be way harder than just doing standard bodyweight squats. So you're gonna elevate one back leg, bring your front leg forward, and you're gonna drive through your heel here and do reps until you get 2 to 3 reps left in the tank. For a lot of you, that's gonna be way too many reps, so you're gonna need to make it a little bit harder on yourself. So one way that you can do that is by keeping a constant tension approach. So if you come down, get nice and deep here, and then you're not gonna come and rest all the way up at the top. You're just gonna keep a nice pulse going, and you're probably gonna bang out a nice few reps. Now if that's still too easy for you, you're probably gonna need some kind of weighted resistance. So I've only got 12-pound dumbbells here at home for now, but even just adding that little bit of extra weight can make a big difference. If you don't have any weight at all, you can make it a little bit more difficult by increasing the range of motion. So in addition to keeping that constant tension approach, you can elevate your front foot up here. Careful with this could be bad. And get a little bit deeper at the bottom, and then still keeping your constant tension approach at the top. And that's gonna be more challenging than just simply doing it with that shorter range of motion. All right, so that was mostly for the quads. Next is an exercise more for the glutes. And again, you're only gonna pick 1 or 2 of these per workout for the most part. So this is just a simple hip thrust. So for some of you guys, you could just do straight hip thrusts with a strong glute squeeze and a strong mind muscle connection, but you might need to do a million reps in order to get sufficiently close to failure. So what I would recommend doing here is doing them unilaterally. So lift one leg up and you're doing the same motion, keeping constant tension on your glutes. So even at the bottom, you're not releasing that tension. You still kind of got your butt cheeks squeezed together. And then at the top, you're really squeezing that glute. So this is gonna be a lot harder, and you easily cut your reps in half, if not more. And then obviously repeat it on the other side. If that's still too easy, then you can obviously add some resistance. What I would do is just kind of sit a dumbbell here in your lap, and then you can still do them unilaterally. And even just a little bit of weight like that does make the exercise quite a bit more challenging. Okay, so the next one is gonna be a Nordic ham curl. This is a really difficult exercise, probably the toughest out of the ones we've done so far. So for here, you just wanna pin your heels underneath your couch. This should work for most people. My couch kind of pops up when I do them. So what you could do is have like a friend or a significant other sit here on the couch so that it doesn't pop up if you find that happening, but we'll be okay here for the demonstration. For this one, the most important thing is keeping your hips extended. So when a lot of people do the Nordic curl, they tend to come forward at the hips, and that's a way of cheating. That's gonna make it a lot easier on you. So keep your hips extended by keeping your glutes squeezed, and you're gonna fall, 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 until you feel like you can't control it anymore with your hamstrings. And you're gonna push yourself back up till you get about maybe half the way, and then finish the squeeze out with your hamstrings. So I'll do a full rep for you guys here. So I'm gonna fall, 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 squeezing my hamstrings. Then I'm gonna come down, and I'm gonna squeeze back up. Fall, 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 fall. Push, and squeeze the rest of the way. And I would say maybe I would get something like 8 to 12 reps like that. And those are really challenging any way you slice it. Oh, and you could also If you don't have the sofa, you could just have a training partner kind of pin your ankles down for those as well. So when you're doing these workouts, you can do them in a circuit, so you don't have to do all 3 sets of the leg stuff first and then do like your push stuff and then your pull stuff. You can just go through it in a circuit, and that'll help keep the pace of the workout up a bit. I find with at-home workouts, if you're just sitting around, you can get distracted on your phone or whatever. So I just kind of like to keep things moving. All right, so the next exercise I'm gonna cover is the pistol squat. So most people won't be able to do this outright. So there's a simple progression you can follow. Pistol squat is basically just a one-legged squat. So you're gonna put your non-squat leg out in front of you, put your hands out in front of you as a counterbalance. I'm gonna sit back onto the chair and then squat up. And you can do that for however many reps you're comfortable doing that for. I'd probably do at least 10 to 12, and then obviously switch legs and repeat. That's the first progression. After that, you can move on to the assisted pistol squat. So for this, you're gonna have one hand out in front of you, the other hand on some kind of surface that'll keep your balance. And then you're just gonna squat down, all the way down and back up. And this hand can help you a little bit. Right, okay, easy. Then once you've mastered that, I haven't done a full pistol squat in a while, so go easy on me. You can do it freestanding pistol squat. So for this, leg up in front of you, hands out as a counterbalance, and Valsalva. Bam. Yeah, that's weak. Let's do it again. I'm gonna do 2 in a row. These are kind of hard. Okay, 1. Okay, 2. Yeah, so build your rep count up on that. For most people, balance will probably be the most difficult thing at first, but you will build that strength as you go as well. All right, that's it for the leg stuff. Up next, we're gonna do 3, I think, different push exercises. So I'm not gonna split these into like chest and shoulders. They're just gonna function as general push movements. So the most obvious one here is really gonna hit the pecs, also the interior delts, is the push-up. So everyone can do this. Well, if you can't do it, you can do it from your knees, but it doesn't require any equipment at all. And I think the push-up is a good exercise to just do high reps with. So I even actually have this included in my own full body program when I'm training at the gym, and I'll just try to beat whatever rep count I got the previous week. So right now I can do around 65 push-ups as an AMRAP. So if I were to do that right now, the next day I do push-ups, I'd want to try to do 66 and 67 and then so on and so forth. Now, if you don't want to do all that high rep training, there are ways that you can make it more difficult. So one way is to just elevate your feet. So this is gonna make the push-up mimic more of an incline press. So you'll target more of the upper pecs and anterior delts doing it this way than just the standard push-up with the feet on the ground. So that'll make it a bit more difficult, but not by much. Now, if you have a partner around with you, you can have them load a plate if you happen to have one on your upper back, or if you're really strong, you could just have your friend or significant other or whatever literally sit on your upper back, which I've done in hotel workouts and things like that. And then also, if you have some bands, you can easily wrap the band around your back and just do push-ups like that. Now, one other thing that you can do for push-ups I forgot to mention is deficit push-ups. So if you're at home and you have plates, you could stack a couple plates under your hands. If not, maybe you could stack like a couple textbooks on top of each other. That's just gonna give you a little extra range of motion, a little more stretch, and make the movement a little more challenging. And after that, we're gonna move on to the next exercise, which is gonna be a vertical push-up. So similar to the regular push-up, except you put your feet up on the wall and you're gonna do push-ups that way. Now, you'll wanna gradually increase the torso inclination until you get more and more vertical. You might find these to be really challenging, so this is a way that you can kind of load your shoulders and your upper pecs in a higher rep range without actually having any weights. So this is one of my favorites, actually. All right, third push exercise, kind of a push exercise, is the shoulder exercise, so we'll call it push, is gonna be a lateral raise. Now, if you have bands or dumbbells, it's pretty obvious how you do this. Check out my Technique Tuesday video if you don't know. But I think what's more interesting is if you don't have any of this equipment, you can do unloaded lateral raises with a strong isometric contraction. I'll show you guys how to do that over here in the doorway. Stand in a doorway and push against the back of your hands like this. Not super hard, but hard enough so that you can feel your lateral delts start to turn on here. So I'll hold that for maybe 10 to 15 seconds, kind of gradually increasing the pressure and feeling my lateral delts turn on. And then I'll step out. Remember that game when you were a kid, they would just like naturally contract? So what you're gonna do instead of just letting it fly or letting it float is you're gonna actively squeeze your delts and do unloaded lateral raises. This is gonna look stupid, but you're at home, it doesn't matter. And what you can do to make it a little bit harder is kind of co-contract your lats to antagonize this movement here. So think about almost packing your lats in as you press against an imaginary weight here and flex that lateral head of your deltoid as hard as you can. You might think this is crazy, but there is actually some research supporting no load training, and it does work. They showed it to work in the biceps. I believe it could work for other muscle groups because you are still generating a lot of tension inside the muscle, even in the absence of external load. So if you don't have anything for pretty much any exercise, you can just flex and squeeze the muscle as you go through a range of motion as hard as you can, and that's gonna be a hell of a lot better than doing absolutely nothing. So this is a lateral raise option you can do if you have no equipment. So I'm gonna quickly go through the pull workouts here. My number one exercise for the back would be a pull-up. So if you have an at-home pull-up bar, you should use it. If you don't have one, I'd definitely recommend getting one. That's gonna pretty much cover most of your bases when it comes to the back. So that'll be your vertical pull. I don't actually have one, so I won't be able to do those. So as a secondary pull or a horizontal pull, I'd recommend doing rack chins. So I'm gonna show you guys how to set this up on the desk over here. We're gonna get under the desk. Think of this like an inverted row. So you're gonna grip the top of the desk. Make sure this is gonna be able to support your weight. I've already tested this. And you're just gonna row your body weight up like this. 1 and 2. Do that for however many reps you need until you get to that point of being pretty close to failure. For most people, that's gonna be way too many reps. So what you can do to make it more difficult is elevate your feet. And if that's still not difficult enough for you, then you can have a training partner or someone load some weight on your stomach, and that'll increase the intensity a little bit. Welcome to the old Technique Tuesday studio, guys. This is where the magic used to happen. I'm gonna be bringing it back, by the way. It'll be different, but I'm still trying to nail down the idea. The next pull exercise is gonna be just a variety of different pulls using a band. So I definitely would recommend getting a band. If you don't have one, pull exercises from home are gonna be a little more difficult. And you're gonna need a door anchor. Most sets of bands do come with this, but if not, you can easily get one. Drape the door anchor over the door, close the door. So that's gonna be really tightly in there. To get a bit more tension, you want the band to be pretty lengthened. If you do pulls like this, it can mimic more of a high row. So you're gonna hit lats and traps. So this is a great one. If you wanna make it more lat dominant, you just need to move in closer to the door. So I actually like to turn around for these. So you can turn around and do basically lat pull downs. And then the third thing you can do with this is face pulls. So you can pull the weight back and squeeze your rear delts here at the top. And then if you want to make it more trap dominant, again, you can just do it more like a high row. So those are all my pull exercises. We're going to finish off with a few isolation moves, and that's going to be a wrap. So up next, we're going to hit biceps, triceps, abs, and calves really quickly. I'm just going to show you guys an example of a few different exercises for each of those. So for the biceps, basically all you want to do is some kind of curl. So that can be a seated dumbbell curl if you have dumbbells. It can be a band curl if you have bands. If you have no equipment at all, again, remember, just like with the lateral delts, you can do a similar thing with the biceps and kind of flex your triceps and use your bicep to squeeze against the antagonistic action of the triceps. Again, this has been shown in studies to work, so if you don't have anything, it's definitely better than nothing. Similar deal for the triceps. Basically, you just want to be extending the elbow. I would recommend probably using 2 different shoulder positions. So one exercise where your arm's overhead, like a skull crusher or an overhead dumbbell extension, and then one exercise where your arms are down at your sides. A band would be great for that. When it comes to the abs, there are a bunch of different exercises that I recommend. I think the bicycle crunch is great. I covered that in a Technique Tuesday video. Planks are also very effective, especially if modified to be long lever posterior pelvic tilt planks. I'll link that video down below as well. And then you can also do reverse crunches. So this is probably the closest thing you can get to a hanging leg raise if you don't have a pull-up bar, which is you just position yourself on the edge of the couch and kind of curl your knees up toward your chest. And that's gonna work the lower abs and upper abs quite well. And we're gonna finish this thing out with a bit of calves. Definitely don't wanna skip on the calf work. So for this, you wanna find something that's slightly elevated. This way you'll get a little bit of extra range of motion. Obviously, you're gonna wanna use very high reps if you don't have any weight, but if you do have some weight, you can hold on to some weight and make them a little bit more challenging. All right, guys, that's a wrap for this video. I hope you found it to be really helpful. If you did, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll probably be doing more at-home workouts. So if you liked this sort of thing, please let me know, and I'll keep that in mind. And I'll see you guys all here in the next video.